Hi, my name is Malin Ekholm. I'm head of Volvo Cars Safety Center. Well, distraction, disturbance, and anything linked to inattention to the driving is a hazard independent on age or gender. So technology is moving forward. So we want to start addressing these systems with the active safety functionality that we have today, supporting you during driving. As of model year 21, we have introduced the speed cap into our cars to start the dialogue on the importance of keeping a safe speed. So the speed cap as such is not the answer to the issue of speed, but it is a very, very important statement to start the discussion on what is safe speed and how do we make sure that we keep safe speed. Currently, the support functionality for distraction is forward collision warning and the automatic emergency brake system. But looking forward, we are looking at introducing what we call driver monitoring cameras into our cars. And the driver monitoring camera is a camera not to film you, but the camera being the sensor with the highest level of detail to understand where you are in your mind. So the eye is the mirror to the soul, and we're wanting to use the camera to understand where you are attention-wise and bring you back. People are awesome drivers when they're at their best. We need to make sure you're at your best all of the time. Distraction from traffic is not something you choose. It's life. It's a child in the car. It can be a visit to a doctor. It can be anything that pulls your attention from the task of driving. So with the driver monitoring camera, reading your eyes and your movements, we can interpret that into where are you? And the first step would be turning on any support system that you may have turned off. A next step would be some kind of signaling. May it be a sound or a vibration or a visual, bring you back into the task of driving. If that doesn't work for whatever reason, then the next step would be a safe stop, some kind of communication, how are you, but really focusing on where you are and making you the best that you can possibly be. Safety at Volvo Cars is in our heritage. It's who we are, it's where we're from. So it's a natural part of us. And to us, safety is a knowledge-driven process. It starts with what's happening. It starts with what is putting people in danger, what scenarios are injuring and killing people. And having a dialogue and an understanding with governments, with institutes, with rating institutes on what are you seeing, what are we seeing, what's our analysis on this, is a very fruitful way to attack traffic safety. Because then we share a common ground, and the common ground is that things are happening and we need to work on it. Safety development at Volvo Cars is a knowledge-driven process, and we always start with the field. What is happening in real-life traffic? We have our own accident research team that do in-depth investigation on Volvo Cars in Sweden. What that gives is detailed information of our car performance in that particular situation. Then, of course, we go into the global database and look at what are the scenarios that are harming people, that are killing people. With the scenario, we know we can find that in our in-depth investigation. So the combination of the global analysis of the bigger picture with the details of our own data, we can really understand what it is we need to work with, what the next step would be. And this is the starting point for anything and everything we do when it comes to safety. We start with the data. From there, we do research, we do analysis, we understand what it is, and then we innovate. Sometimes the technology is available, then we will use it. But quite often, we need to innovate. The crumple zone of the spa cars is a very good example of an innovation. Super simple when it's there, but it wasn't there before we introduced it into the spa cars. When building cars, we work globally, and every country has a different approach to safety and learnings from their safety focus. I think what we can share from Sweden to the rest of the world is the close collaboration that we have between universities, institutes, the government, and also the OEMs. Because safety is not solved by one part alone. It's a combination of infrastructure, the car and the functions in the car, education, and legislation. So all of these parts need to come together to really take the big strides in improving traffic safety. Swedish culture is collaborative. The Swedish way of thinking works because we all want the same thing at the end. Every single government wants to have 0 fatalities in traffic. And every person that drives a car wants to come home safe and wants to make sure that everyone around them is safe. So if the starting point is what we want to achieve and what the data is telling us, you can have really fruitful discussions. I think the history of how Swedish companies and institutes and legislators have worked is that we've had a very structured way of collaborating over the years. And I'm seeing more and more of that, and I really enjoy these collaborative dialogues that we have across the globe. To summarize Swedish safety culture, I think the best way to do that is by using the Swedish word omtanke. Om as in tanke as in thought, like rethinking. Always rethink. But omtanke has a different meaning as well. It also means caring for others. So the rethinking of every situation with the perspective of caring, I think that really summarizes the Swedish safety culture in a good way. My hopes and dreams for car manufacturers, authorities, road users, is that we all see traffic safety as a joint problem that we all need to take our part of the responsibility. I think if we all join forces and share our knowledge, not the technical solution, but share our knowledge to make each other better, to make each other stronger, and really pushing traffic safety forward, I think that's the way we're going to make a big difference moving forward. Being an engineer, and in particular a safety engineer, I think the technology of the future is completely fascinating. But with that comes also the challenge and the possibilities of how do we use the future technology in the best possible way. So again, distraction, intoxication are definitely 2 big challenges. Speed is another big challenge. Traffic is becoming more and more dense. And we are driving more, and we are spending more time in the car. So we need to think about how can we help each other make the traffic environment safer, but not losing track of what the car is all about, which is freedom to move. Moving into the technology where we actually enable you to have the freedom to move without the task of driving, which is referred to as autonomous driving. Is a fantastic future. But we also need to understand what you want to use that extra time for. This new living room that you will have, what would you like to use this time and the space to make your life better? And with that comes the understanding of when you're doing those things that you would like to do, if may it be reading a book or working, how do we make sure that we protect you in those situations the same way as we've worked with protecting you in the current setup where you're actually doing the driving? Well, changing the playing field with autonomous driving and the potentials that that has is really an exciting future, because we want to stay true to who we are, which is keeping you safe. And we want to keep our promise of where the car comes from is the freedom to move. And then with that comes the fantastic research and all the knowledge and the customer needs, and then boiling all of that down and moving safety forward into the future is extremely fascinating. I think moving forward into autonomous drive, you need to translate the person-to-person communication into a car-to-person communication, because it's been trained over the years, the eye-to-eye contact. That's something that's in our DNA. how people respond and react to each other. It's very global, the communication. It's very subtle. So that needs to be translated into a car communicating with a person. Moving forward, introducing autonomous cars, we as a car maker have the responsibility to make sure that we have a clear car to other road user communication, bicyclists, pedestrians, and others. So we need to understand what signals from the cars are relevant for the surrounding road users so that they can comprehend the intentions of the car and understand what the autonomous car is going to do for them to take the right decision, linked to the car taking the right decision. The thing most everyone sees when it comes to safety development is the crash test. The car running into some form of barrier. But the crash testing starts a lot earlier. It starts in the virtual world. Because in the virtual world, we can vary. We can vary speeds, we can vary direction, we can vary body sizes, we can vary weight, height, age. Of course, components and systems are part of that as well. But it's important to understand that the physical test is super important to know that what we see in the computer is actually the truth. But what we can do in the computer is actually make sure that we have the robustness for the variation that we have in the real world. The actual crash test is over in a split second, but the process to get there is a meticulous process, and it starts 1 week before the actual test. And yes, it is brand new cars coming from the factory. So what we want to know is that we are producing what we're testing. And then, depending on what the test is, it's a defined set of crash test dummies, which is a representation of the human body. It's a defined speed and a defined direction, and everything needs to be done to perfection. So a lot of hard work, a lot of details, and checks and checks and checks over and over again to make sure that what we want to do is what we're doing. Because then we know that for all the physical tests, we have a back-to-back comparison, and we know that we have the performance level that we are expecting and that you are expecting from a Volvo car. My first time witnessing a crash test, I did get goosebumps, and I felt it was a very emotional reaction for me. And I think we get questions sometimes you want to witness a crash, and it's always a very high speed that everyone wants to see it. But I think even more important is to witness a crash at a low speed, because then you realize that even at a low speed, the forces are quite high. And it's very humbling, and you understand what people are going through. And I think that's the process that went through me. This is actually what people are experiencing in real life. And being there and witnessing that just gives that extra energy to push further, work harder, and make our product even better moving forward. When it comes to traffic safety, the basics are really the most important starting point. Using the safety belt, making that mandatory. Using the protective systems that are there for children, booster cushions and other solutions to make sure that the children are protected in the best possible way. And then driving at a safe speed. Doing those three is going to add a lot of safety to roads, and then we can start the conversation on moving forward from there. There is a global difference, but I think at least everyone can start in just making sure that the basics are there. Staying safe on the roads starts with the simple things. It starts with using the safety belt, making sure that your children are using the right booster cushions, and keeping a safe speed. With those three, you're taking a really big step towards safety. There's a little piece of Volvo innovation in every single car out there, and that's a 3-point safety belt. It was introduced in 1959, and it was introduced to save lives. Staying safe on the road is not a cowardly thing to do. It's the right thing to do. Your family wants you home. So use the safety belt, stay at a safe speed, use the protective booster cushions for your children, and make sure you get home safe.